good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Aquatic Morning Show, where the aquarists go to be in the know, right here on your Aquatic Morning Show. And this morning, we've got, finally, we got Mr. Bentley Pascoe.
Howdy.
Two lovely
Crowd goes wild.
below me as well. We've got I Love Shrimp, Mr. Papa Shrimp, and Eric Wyrock, who is now been asked to be a staple on the morning show. So congratulations.
Thank you.
All right, you guys. Well, Eric Wyrock decided he wanted to start everything off this morning with a dance. So here we go. So if that doesn't get you waking up, I don't know what will.
Wacky inflatable tube guy.
Right. I need to add that part to it. So I'll just cut that part out and add it to it for you.
There you go.
Well, let me say good morning to everybody in chat real quick. We had, of course, Eric Wyrock right off the bat, Eduardo, Mark Sterlson, Scotty the Fish Freak, Atomic Injections 47, Scotty the Fish Freak. Again, let's see. Lady Rorschach, good morning. Good to see you. The Nano Aquarium guy. Geek Boy. Good to see you, Geek Boy. We don't get to see you as much in the mornings early anymore. Whips World. You too. Good morning. It's early. Well, it's early on the West Coast.
Yeah.
It's already mid-morning on the East Coast.
Mm-hmm.
Which is crazy. I just think that's still so crazy.
Oh, yeah. When Shannon would get up for the morning shows every day, like, whew, that is commitment.
Yes. Yeah. Debbie Holding, good morning. Good to see you. Verily, Casey, good morning, lady. How are you? I still don't have a picture of that puppy.
Life is but a dream.
She got one of my corgi puppies. When I went to Orlando, I took her with me. So she got one of the corgi puppies this past Orlando Aquashella.
That's going to make me ask a lot of questions because I also have a corgi.
I know. No. Let's see. Oh, the Garden of Eder. Hey, good morning, you guys. Good to see y'all.
What's
if
up,
you guys
man?
have not gone and checked out the Garden of Eder, you need to do that. They've got some awesome shrimp, and so does this man here. But his are kind of like all over the place at the moment. They're still available. They are still available.
Actually, they're all at the shop now. Everything's up at the shop.
There we go. Good.
In their
Good
tanks
deal.
and happy.
Good.
Awesome.
So at least you still get to see them just about every day. Oh, Patty's Petite Tanks. Hey, Miss Patty, how are you? She said she'll catch us later, saying good morning. All right. Well, catch us again, please. Miss Lori, my wonderful mod, thank you for being here. She definitely, her and Miss Dee Dee, keep me all wrapped up and tight on the back side of things.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I made it to the bottom of chat. There are already 37 people here.
Nice.
And they're still flowing in. That's awesome. All right. So we're going to get to Mr. Bentley here because we finally got him. And when I mean that, like, I really mean it. This man is so busy. He's busier than I am. And
I believe it.
For him to be able to stop and give us, an hour and a half, 2 hours of his time is like, thank you.
I mean, let's see. You emailed me. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
2.5 months ago. So
Yep.
it took me what, a month and a half to respond? 2 months
Yeah,
to respond?
and then before that, it's been 6, 7, 8 months. I had emailed then, and it was just like, and I just can't right now. It's just too busy, And
But I mean,
you get that.
when my schedule is getting more relaxed, it's like real light quotation marks around that one. But
right.
Yeah, no, I was watching last night specifically your video on the Higer light and your initial impressions on the Higer light.
Yeah.
And I have some like inside information that I can't talk about.
Yeah.
It's not for Higer,
but
for someone else. And I was noticing like some design things in the Higer light that are oddly suspicious to a prototype light that I had been playing with.
Really?
That is now no longer going to be developed by that company.
Uh-oh.
So it's like, but there's some big differences in the two lights. I don't think I'm not trying to say something negative about the Higer light. I actually think that light's pretty decent for its price point.
Yeah.
But I was looking at it and I'm like, I didn't notice that until I've been playing with this stupid prototype light for like 6 months.
Yeah. It's
Interesting.
I was asked, I got that, and I've also got the heater, which I haven't even done anything with the heater yet. But, I know several of the fish family were asked, to try this out. And it's for that one company, which I really don't care about the company, but it's for, it's the Higer product. And for the price, it's not a bad product.
Yeah.
You can go more expensive and get way more features, and everything like that. But, for the price point and for what it does, it's not a bad light. In my opinion, you go with what you do, especially for your job, you are tuned in to looking for very detailed specifics. Whereas I feel like I am more of like, I am a spontaneous buyer, and I am also, okay, well, I know I just need this to just do this. And so, if it comes with something else, yay, So, that's kind of how I looked at the Higer light. And I'd only used it for 2 weeks so far. And, that's what I said. I've only used it for 2 weeks. We may have to do an adjustment to this video later. But, for now, this is it. And when they emailed me and asked me to do it, first they said, would you give a good review? And I said, no, I'll give you an honest review. And, take it.
That's, mean, any of us who've done YouTube and for those, like whether you have a channel or not in chat, you'll at some point, 8,000 people you've never heard of with random Chinese products come out of the woodwork trying to get you to try who knows what off of Amazon, and like, but make sure you give us a good review. We'll give you our $10 thing for 6-7 hours of your work. It's like,
yeah.
I get way too many of those, and sometimes I have a little too much fun responding to them.
Yeah,
by being a slightly less nice person. I'm not outright cruel, but usually I'm like, so I'm a professional software test engineer. I make a relatively good living. Are you going to pay me at my hourly rate to test this product? Because I'll test it for you.
Right.
That's what I do for a living.
Yeah.
And usually it's like, well, no, we'll send you the product for free. I'm like, well, I'm not really interested in your like pool floaties. I'm an aquarium channel.
Yeah.
I've had some real random stuff sent at me. It's like, oh, this is a really good piece of gear for hiking. It's like, have you watched any of my videos? Do you think my fat butt hikes? What? It's just some of those things. Just and inevitably, like your channel doesn't have to be that big. I got stuff when I had like 500 subscribers.
Oh wow!
And it was like, why?
Yeah.
Why? Even my channel's size. I put that in big quotation marks because in the grand scheme of YouTube, like I am a grain of sand. I am minuscule. But in fish world, it's like a little different, right? Because it's such a niche hobby.
Yeah.
It's certainly not like any of the co-op gang or it's certainly not like John and Lisa or any of the bigger channels. You can go up and up and up and up, but Pec Tech, folks like that, where it's like, no, I'm not even close to that club yet, but it's still kind of funny. It's like, all right,
I put you. I do. I put you in that category with Corey and them, with Cagey Tropicals, just because I it doesn't have anything to do with the numbers. It's got to do with your knowledge. You've been here.
Knowledge and professionalism.
I appreciate it.
Yeah, you know what's going on. I mean, and you're amazing.
The way you run your streams is just you answer every single question. You give your email address out to make sure, like, hey, if I didn't get to your question, send it to me. I won't respond in 2 minutes, but you will get a response, and it's so refreshing.
It may take 2 months by email, but he will respond.
Lately, I've been really bad, but in like,
new job,
and also like my old job was excessively demanding. A lot of people will hear like, oh yeah, you think you're busy. This person says they're busy, or that person says they're busy. It's like, no, I was working at least 60 hours a week.
Yeah.
And then I was commuting at least 2 hours a day every day. So add that extra 10 hours. Now you're at 70 hours a week. Plus I have my YouTube channel. Then I have to spend some time with my lady.
Family.
And my dogs.
Yeah.
It's like, it gets a little much at times. And then sometimes I can remember there's been several times where it's been, I have talked to members of my family. They're like, hey, do you think you're going to be able to come out to this person's birthday? And it'd be like my niece or my nephew. And they're like 2.
Yeah.
I'm sitting there going like, I'm not sure. I'm going to try my best. And usually I give that answer to like my brother. And then I'll get a phone call from my mom. It's like, so you're going to be at Sylvia's birthday, right? I'm like, yes, mama. My mom just straight bullies me, just like, you're gonna be there, right?
Right.
Yeah, I guess I am now.
That sounds like what my mom does. Real quick, Mark Stolson, he says, I think I may have heard of this Bentley fellow. And yes, I think you might have. And thank you so much for the $5 super chat, or I think that's a super sticker. And here is your dance, sir. Eric, I am so going to record you one day.
I always forget that you can see.
Because that is amazing. Y'all, this guy is backstage just getting down.
Every day, whenever I hear that, it's always dance party.
It is so funny.
I was doing the mini Yoda thing.
Yeah.
And I was doing like this, and I looked down and saw myself, and I was like, oh, crap. I better stop. She's gonna
That's right. I can see you. I can see you. Oh, where'd my chat go? Oh, okay, here we go. There we go. I had to go back. All right. So most people, I think, know Mr. Bentley as the plant guy.
I know him as the rainbow guy.
And the rainbow fish guy. I know him more as a plant guy, and then I learned about the fish, the rainbow fish. How did you become, I know how you became so knowledgeable in plants because you studied, but how did that come about? Like, did you just say, ooh, I got an Anubias. That's pretty cool looking. Ooh, did it just kind of slowly come about, or were you just like instantly drawn to planet tanks and you were like, that's what I'm doing? I'm just going to learn all about that.
Yeah. I took a big break in the hobby.
Okay.
I did fish as a kid. Well, okay, I did fish as a kid. Like my parents did it when I was a kid. Let's be honest here. But
right.
I love fish as a kid. And one of my favorite things, we have this fantastic pet store here called Denny's Pets it's in Kirkland, Washington. and it's been around for a long time. That was my local pet store growing up, and they're fantastic. They've got birds, and they, you know, bring in puppies and kitties. They have small rodents. Like, you got everything.
Yeah.
But they've always had a very, very, very robust fish section. Oh, and I used to go in as a kid and see, I would wander the fish section for a majority of my time. I was really into fish and birds. I kept a lot of birds when I was a kid too.
Yeah.
Yeah. we can get into that. At one point I had something like 30 birds in my parents' house. Like, I had way too many. Mostly parakeets, but I also had a bunch of cockatiels too.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, I love birds as a kid.
Yeah.
But I inevitably always would spend more time in the fish area than I would ever spend anywhere else in the pet store whenever we go. And it was a regular thing because, like, my pets are a big thing in my mom's side of the family. So I get all the way until about college, and that's when I stopped keeping fish.
Okay.
I was busy. Yeah. I didn't really have the space. I was poor, you know, and through working in early times, it wasn't until 2016 basically that I got back in the hobby. Like, I had established myself as a professional and could afford a house, which I don't know that anybody could afford a house nowadays.
Right. No kidding.
So good timing there. Got a little lucky. Yeah. And then at one point I was unemployed, and I'm in my house, and I was a little stressed, and it randomly came across a video from an old channel called The Green Machine, and saw this beautiful planted tank. Mm-hmm. And, you know, this amazing aquascape. And the first thing I paid attention to was the fish. And I was like, I need a fish tank. I haven't had that since I was a kid. And I can remember just staring and watching fish swim and feeling way more at ease. You know, anytime I would be stressed or anxious or just like, I don't know what I'm going to do. I just sit and stare at my fish tank as a kid, and I just feel great. Right. I could do that for 30, 40 hour at a time. It was not a problem, even as a kid.
Melt away.
And I'm one of those people who's like, I get really hyper focused when I focus on stuff. So it's inherent that, like, that kind of thing will occur. And I was sitting there very stressed because I'm sitting here worrying about, like, all right, well, do I need to just take any job that comes along? Should I be more picky and find something that makes me happy to be working? Because I worked as a contractor at the time. And the contract world is a little rough at times, especially in tech.
Like building houses, contracting?
No, like tech contractor. Like, so I was a contract test engineer, which that's its own, because in the Seattle area especially, there's lots of tech companies. And you get something like, you'll apply for a job and you'll be going against like 100 people. So the competition is really stiff, and you have to stand out. And then on top of it, usually you have to find a job that interests you, or at least pays you appropriately for your skill set. That can be the tough part. So I was getting kind of stressed with some stuff, and I had a roommate at the time, and him and his little daughter lived with me, and I was like, sitting there going like, "Hey, dude, do you like fish?" And it's like, "I thought you didn't eat fish." And I'm like, no, I mean like pet fish. He goes, "Oh yeah, dude, I grew up. My mom used to breed Oscars. I my last fish tank back when I was in Montana, I had an Oscar. I could pet him. His name was Scooby." And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm not really into like big predatory fish, but you're cool if I put a fish tank in the house, you're not gonna like freak out or anything." He's like, "No, not at all. Actually, can I help you with stuff?" I'm like, "Yeah." So yeah, if you want to help, sir. And so I went on Amazon and I ordered this thing behind me. And it was going to take like a week to get to me, and I was fine with that. And then I had this genius idea of like, well, you know, I kind of want a big tank. Let me go look on like Craigslist or OfferUp or something and see if I can find a used one. Because usually you save a little money on a used tank. I remember this even when I was a kid. So going, and the next day, I've got a guy who's going to deliver me a 135-gallon tank on a stand with a light and a filter. Definitely not a filter for the size of the tank. It was it's a little Penguin 350B hang on the back. It's still on that tank. And from there it was just like, oh, I've already dove head deep into this thing. And I started getting into stuff. Originally I was just gonna do small schooling fish. I had no inclination about doing rainbow fish. I didn't even know rainbow fish existed, really. And I stumble on this tour of Gary Lang's fish room from the co-op.
Okay.
And right away I see like both monai rainbows. It's like, yep, yeah, I have to have that. I need that. How do I get that?
That in my life now.
And so I started trying to do some research, and like I knew from watching some of the Green Machine stuff, I wanted to do a planet tank. I want to try real plants, not the fake stuff, not ornaments, none of that nonsense. I wanted something more natural. I wanted nature in my home. And I started going to a couple of stores locally, and then I was kind of looking around, and right about this time is when Aquarium Co-op hit its 50,000 subscribers, if you can imagine. Way back then. And I had been watching their channel, and like they have this intro, and I'm listening to it, and I'm sitting there going like, wait a minute, why are we showing all these shots of the Space Needle and parts of Seattle? And this is a like local Seattle hip hop artist in the background that like no one knows. It's not like this is somebody who gets radio play. Right. What? So then of course, like this, I've been watching their channel for like 2 months at this point, and I go and look up the store, and then I feel like a complete moron for not knowing that their store is in Edmonds, Washington, which like even with traffic, and traffic is very bad in the Seattle area. I want to be very clear. It's terrible.
Wow.
But even through traffic, that means it's only an hour away, and I'll happily drive an hour to a good fish store.
Yeah.
So, this, I've been watching them for a couple months. And so I was sitting there looking at it. I was at a short-term job at the time that I just took to like go play with some toys, basically put in the test space. And it was like watching a video on my lunch break. It was like, okay, cool. So I'm just going to go there tomorrow. And I went in and met Corey, and then in talking to him very briefly, he had mentioned like, hey, are you a member of the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society? And I was like, no, what is this? It's like, oh, well, they're a club for fish people in the Seattle area. They meet, and it's like, here's their website. And it's like, cool. And I looked at it, and it's kind of like, oh, this is interesting. They have a picnic coming up in July, but it's only for the members. So I guess I'm just going to become a member.
Right.
So that I can go to this picnic full of fish nerds.
Yeah.
And I go to the picnic, and they have this plant swap.
Ooh.
And if you brought plants, you can put them in basically a big bin, and they draw names. And then you just go in order, and you randomly pick something that someone else brought. So it's a way to get plants. And I was like, that's interesting. And they're like, oh yeah, are you? We haven't seen you before. Have you been to any of the meetings? It's like, no, I literally joined like a week ago in order to come to the picnic. They're like, cool. So our first meeting's in September. You should make sure to come. We go to the meeting in September. And then our horticulture awards chairperson gets up, a gentleman by the name of Roy. Sometimes for those who've ever been on planettank.net, he is Seattle aquarist. He's like, if you think I know plants, I am an infant compared to that man. That man is a absolute legend. And just like, but he's not into YouTube. He's not into social media. He doesn't like interviews, none of that stuff. He's just very old school. So he gets up and he's talking about stuff. And he's like, oh, if you're a member of the plant program and you've submitted any plants in the last 3 months, you can then become eligible for the plant of the month.
Oh.
And instantly I'm sitting there just kind of like dozing off, waiting for the speaker, and I just go, plant of the month, you say?
Right.
Free plants, you say?
Yeah.
How do I do this? and from there, like I went from like, I'm just going to keep some easy plants that have a couple nice planet tanks. I was going to have this and my big tank downstairs. That was my original goal when I got back. I was like, I'm going to have one big tank and one small tank. A small tank in my room and a big tank downstairs would be great. Well, I blew that out of the water before I ever got to the first club meeting, because I was like, oh, I adopted this tank and I set up a few tanks on a rack in here. And this room that originally was set up to be like my arcade, because I was really into old school arcades. I'm just going to get rid of my arcade machines, and it's just going to become where all my fish tanks go.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm just like, and then like again in this program, and instantly I'm sitting there going like, okay, I went from like plants are interesting to now there is a way for me to basically compete with myself.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not necessarily, I'm very competitive. I've played lots of sports. I play lots of very competitive games, or at least I used to when I was younger and had more time.
Right.
I have an inherent, like, I will show you streak in my system.
Oh.
I think part of it comes from, like, you know, when you're a chunky kid, you tend to get bullied. And then when you get an opportunity to show them why they're dumb for bullying you, you kind of want to. And it puts that natural, like, want to just be like, oh, you think you're good? All right, I'll show you.
Just wait.
Mentality in your brain. And I think part of that comes from my dad. My dad's very competitive too. So we in a very healthy way are very competitive individuals.
Right.
So for me, it was one of these things of, like, I love to learn. I love to grow naturally. It's just part of who I am. Just I love absorbing information, kind of like a giant sponge.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And now I was just in this, like, here's this world of stuff where, like, I'm terrible with terrestrial plants. I have tried to learn how to garden from my mother because she's very good. And I've just murdered, like, everything I ever touched, with the exception of roses. It's the only thing I could do right.
You add roses. Too much water.
But all of a sudden, I drown the plants, and I'm very good at them.
Waterboarding the plants.
Yeah. Apparently, all I have to do is torture my plants by dunking them in water.
Well, then it's a good thing you went with aquatic plants.
Well, something clicked, and I don't know where it came from. Right? It's because I've never been really into plants. I'm not a person with a lot of house plants. I've had like 2 house plants my whole life. I look at people who do, like, I look at, like, Jimmy, right? And he's got this cool houseplant thing, or like candy overalls. He's got that cool wall. I'm like, that would be neat. And then I immediately think of my dogs, and I'm like, they would destroy that. So let's not do that. Right. It's a miracle they don't get at the fish tanks as is.
Right.
But yeah, then from there, the horticulture program was like, oh, here's an opportunity. And I was talking with a friend of mine.
This is the aquatic horticulture, right?
Right. So this is the program that my club has, the GSAS. I was talking with a friend and was like, okay, how did you get to master aquatic horticulturalist? And they're like, oh, I just mostly did easy plants. There's not a huge restriction because it's a point-based system. Now, if you tell a gamer who is a test engineer by trade that it's a point-based system, the first thing that your brain does is, okay, well, that's easy to figure out. And then 2, how can I break it?
Yeah.
Because I'm a test engineer. I want to break it.
Yeah.
So I looked at our program very in depth, and I was like, okay, I want to earn Master Aquatic Horticulturalist, but I want to do this kind of fast.
Yeah.
So how do I do that fast? And my answer to that was, okay, we'll set up an entirely new 40-gallon breeder in a different room of the house. And its sole job is to build plants. And that's when I started building, like, the Plants for Profit series. Is my goal was to use this tank. I could make some YouTube content around it, but also at the same time, I was going to just go berserk in my club's plant program and grow as much stuff as I could possibly grow as fast as I could.
Blow it out.
Within the rules that our club has. So I take a few months and I hit Master 1. Now, keep in mind, my first meeting ever to this club is in September.
Yeah.
I find out about Plant of the Month. My first participation in Plant of the Month is in October. By December, I've completed Master 1.
Wow.
But then you get to the next year, and in a 2-month time frame, I've completed 2 more master levels.
Yeah, you broke it.
And I that was in my very, very fast period of doing a lot of work, and I was growing tons of plants left and right. I was you'd have thought I was a shop, the amount of plants I was bringing in.
Right.
Only in one tank.
I
had tanks without CO2. I had tanks with CO2.
Okay.
This is when I started learning lighting, kind of understanding how lighting and CO2 and your nutrients, and I was learning the hard way. I had one tank to have massive algae outbreaks, and I'm sitting there trying to figure out what I'd done wrong, and trying to learn how to balance it. And it was mostly through this program in my club that I learned almost everything I did, because I basically forced myself into that like inherent continuous improvement competitive spirit that I have. It was like, I am going to that. Let me look at the list of like there's an all-time basically point leader list in our club, and I think that's the worst thing to ever show Bentley, because inherently I'm going to look at that list and go, so the best person in the club is Steve Waldron, the owner of Aquarium Zen, this amazing aquarium store.
Okay.
And he stopped submitting points at Master 4. I could probably do that in a couple of years. And then I hit Master 3 in like 6 months.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, now it's how far ahead can I get? And thankfully, another member of the club, a gentleman named Victor, who's a fantastic plant guy, was basically like saw this person out of the blue just start blowing through the point boards and was like, okay, I need to get serious, because he's also a hyper competitive individual. And his goal was to be at the top. And so they're basically me and him yo-yoing back and forth for a while until he was getting a little busy. And then from there, I'm just like a full master and a half rank ahead of him. Ugh. And he finally, like, I remember we were sitting there talking because we hadn't talked in person in like 6 months. And it was right toward the start of the pandemic. And he kind of reached out over Facebook and was like, hey, dude, how you been? And we talked for a little bit. And he's like, hey, so, yeah, I'm probably not going to keep submitting anything to HAB. So, you know, you
just
win.
Take it.
And I was like, well, it wasn't about like me trying to beat you. I just like, I don't know, I got hooked. It's like, yeah. And I was like, by the way, do you have any of those? Like, this is one of my guys who's like a rare crypt guru. I was like, do you have any like random rare crypts that I haven't tried yet that you have spares of? And he's like, actually, I've like just took down one of my tanks. So I'm going to take down almost all of them.
Oh.
And I was like, what? And he's like, yeah, you know,
you broke me, Bentley.
Kid, job's getting busier. Trying to do more like bike riding, get healthier. I don't have as much time for aquarium, so I only get to keep one at the office, and then that's about it. And it was like, oh, that's kind of sad. And eventually it was like, I was looking at things. It was like, I want to hit Master 10.
Okay.
Because it was so astronomically high compared to anything else the club had in the past. It's like, I think I can slow down at Master 10.
Slow down.
Slow down.
And then I've probably have like a full another master rank worth of stuff I haven't submitted to my club just because I've been too busy to do it. So
now, what does that entail when you?
Sure. So each club that has a horticulture awards program does it slightly different.
Okay.
In the case of our club, you basically have 400 total points is required to go from novice to master. And then you can just keep repeating the cycle over and over again. Now, in our club, each plant species is worth a certain number of points, depending on their difficulty, and then or how slow they grow. And it's all about propagation. So if you've, let's say you have 5 stems of Pogostaemon stellatus octopus, you have to now hit 10. That's your first propagation.
Okay.
And then from there, you need to double it again. That's your second propagation. You can propagate a plant twice, and you can flower a plant, which is optional, once. And then each of these is worth a certain number of points. And then from there, you'll never gain points on that plant ever again. So now you have to move to a different plant and do it again with something else.
So once one plant is done, that's done for that plant. You got to move on to something else.
Right. And sometimes there are some back and forth conversations with the person who's in charge, the chairperson, or Roy, because there's been times where I've submitted 2 different plants because their collection location is different, which means the coloration in the plant itself is completely different. But there's not a lot of documentation on some of these hyper rare plants. And if he has trouble finding that stuff, no go.
Oh.
So there's been an example would be there's a crypt called Ponderdidifolia, and it's really, really cool because it has this kind of long, thin stem, and it goes into this big, broad, like arrowhead shaped leaf. It looks more like an Anubias in a way in its leaf form. And it's a very unique crypt. Well, there's basic Ponderidifolia, and then there's Ponderidifolia Assay Highlands, which is sometimes called rose lips. That one's very rare. It was collected once in 2005, and the natural habitat it came from has been destroyed.
Oh no!
There's no going back on that plant. You can't wild collect it anymore. And so I had submitted it under the Assay Highlands version, I think 3 years ago, and it's one of these plants that I hide in like rat holes in my tank, where like I purposely hide this plant because I know how rare it is. And I got normal Ponderidifolia in a different tank, and it was growing out. I was like, oh yeah, I should submit that Ponderidifolia. I haven't submitted it. And so I submit it, and it just gets denied. Like, you've already submitted this plant. It's like, no, it's different. And I had a face-to-face conversation with him.
There would be a different variety, or different
right?
Species.
It's rose like, lips, yeah. It's like the difference between Wendellii red, Wendellii green, Wendellii bronze. They all come from different locations initially in the wild. And that's how they get these coloration differences. Okay. And I had a long conversation with him back and forth, which in our club, long conversation is like 10 minutes, just because everybody's busy. Everybody wants to talk to everybody because we see each other once a month. And especially when it's been like, we're out of the pandemic and nobody's seen any other fish nerd face-to-face in a while. On it. Let's please nerd out. Nerd out now. Right. And I'm sitting, because I remember specifically, I'm sitting there with my mask on. And we're like, we're distanced apart. This is really, really early. It's the first meeting we came back. And it was sitting there talking, and it's like, yeah, no, I understand why you're doing that, but I don't have enough documentation on the Assay Highlands variety to prove scientifically it's any different. And I was like, I could go to Kara Wade and have her talk to you about it, or Karen Randall, or and he's like, yeah, I don't care. And I'm like, okay.
Roy,
it's your program, Roy. You got it, buddy. I'm just at this point, I'm just gonna let it slide, let it fly. I'm like, all right, I've grown enough nonsense. But yeah, so the program in itself is kind of simple, at least for our club. The basics of how to do it is simple. But once you get past like Master 1, because you need to keep in mind, a lot of your STEM points are worth 5 points.
Okay.
So you propagate the stem twice, that's 10 points, and you need to get to 400.
Woo!
So
that's a lot.
You usually would have to, if you were just doing just stems, you're looking at propagating something like 40 species of plants.
Yeah.
Now things like Anubias and Boost, your slower growers, those are worth a little bit more. Flowering plants is where like you get a lot of points. So if you're really good at flowering plants, this is a skill I had to cultivate over time, because my competitive nature was like, well, that seems like the easiest way to get lots of points at a time, because every flower is worth 25. So I should probably start flowering more plants. And now at this point, I've propagated over 200 species of plants. I stopped counting, honestly. Like I'm probably close to 300 at this point. And I've flowered well over 70 species of plants.
Wow.
So it's one of those things where eventually, like, you figure out enough, and not from a scientific level. It's a lot like most of us hobbyists with our fish. Like, you just figure out the right things for you.
Yeah.
And you hit a roll. If you're really interested, you just start rolling. You just kind of keep going and doing stuff. Like I remember for a while, it was like, let me find the craziest, most ridiculous stems I can for a while. And then I got on a big kick where it was like, let me do like 8,000 species of Anubias and Boosts. And okay, now I want to do all these different versions of Java Fern. Now let me do some weird floating plants that I haven't done before. It's just one of those things where you kind of just roll through stuff. You go through kind of phases like any hobbyist would, and then eventually you settle on stuff, and you kind of realize like, okay, I don't need to go like hog wild crazy anymore. I've kind of proven myself to myself. Yeah. I don't need to prove myself to anybody else.
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing for that for me was when my club specifically said, hey, we would like you to speak about plants.
Wow.
I was like,
so cool.
Yeah, most of the speakers they bring in are like these very decorated people.
Yeah.
So like an example would be earlier this week, we had Rob McClure from Milwaukee. And like this is one of the best Corridora breeders in the world.
Oh wow.
This is a guy who's one of the people who's the first in the world to spawn several species of different Corydorinae.
Yeah.
And because there's 4 different versions, and it's very fantastic.
A lot, right?
And like, there's a particular fish that he talked about where, he was the first recorded in the US to ever breed them. And there was only one other known spawn that was accidental, basically, and that person could never repeat it.
Oh no.
And then he figured out over time by calling his friend down in in Peru. He's talking to a friend in Peru that he's met through the hobby, and he's like, "Oh yeah, no, that the water that fish comes out of is like Coca-Cola."
Oh.
And
so
he's like, no, it can't be. He goes, no. And he goes, well, will you give me pictures of it? And he goes to this friend of his, because he lived like 5 minutes from the collection point of this fish.
Oh wow.
And it's a fairly rare fish.
Okay.
And it goes and he just shows him, he gets like a cup of water and shows it. And he said, it's like, yeah, it's like, it's as dark as the darkest tea you've ever seen.
Wow.
And so he started making his own basically black water extracts by boiling a combination of leaves and alder cones and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And would put a gallon bucket of this stuff that is like thick and syrupy, like it's Coca-Cola.
Oh man.
Into his 20-gallon tank to where he couldn't see the fish. And then next day, eggs all over the place.
Oh wow.
Does the water change? Does his water change? And it's so slowly thinning it down, but like clockwork, every water change once a week, he's getting big batches of eggs.
Wow.
Gets them all the way to clear water, completely gets the extract out, lets them sit and relax for like a year, and goes, okay, let's see if I have for certain figured out and cracked the code on this fish. Makes another bucket of his black water extract, does the same thing next day, eggs.
Wow.
And all of a sudden, this fish that no one knew how to spawn in captivity reliably, that was very rare, that they don't collect very often because there's not a big number of them in the wild. So they're trying to be very careful.
Yeah. Right.
All of a sudden, he's got this thing on lock. And now he's been able to write like an article, and they've scientifically described the fish and all these kind of things. That it's fantastic when that kind of stuff happens. So this is what I'm competing with, in a sense of like, these are the type of people they bring in. Your Gary Langs, people like Karen Randall, who are like legitimate scientists, not some dumb who just did this for fun. and has a small YouTube channel that like members of the club know, but like none of the board cares about my YouTube channel. Like,
right.
Well, they're all old. They don't watch YouTube. Yeah. They're all older.
They're fogies.
They're all. I mean, I love them to death. Don't get me wrong. They're people that I will happily call friend, happily sit and talk with any day of the week, because we're giant fish nerds. Yes. Right? We're all just giant fish nerds.
Right.
But this was kind of the thing where I was like, okay, I feel like I've done something because I'm getting an opportunity to speak at my home club.
Right.
And talk about a thing that I never would have suspected when I got back into this hobby that would be the thing that I was the most driven toward. Because my assumption was, I'm just going to put some pretty plants in a tank. It's going to make it look nice, and then the fish will look even better. Which is very easy with rainbow fish. They're hyper colorful and they love planted tanks. Like it's a win-win situation. But I never thought it would be like the focus of my aquatic journey would be more plants than anything else.
Yeah, it's
amazing.
I think that's awesome. I've got my horticulture license, but it's terrestrial, not aquatic.
Right.
Yeah, and it's interesting. We have things like that. We have like legitimate licenses and reasonable accolades you can receive in terrestrial horticulture, and we don't have that in any universal program in aquatics.
Right.
Which I've been trying to fix that problem, but I keep getting sidelined by every time I try to fix that problem. So
weren't you working on? You were working on a program.
Still am.
Okay,
still am.
The
biggest problem that I've run into is from a tech perspective. Because like I'm a test engineer, I'm not necessarily a programmer. So in order to build something, whether it's a web service or an app on a phone, whatever it may be, I'm kind of required to reach out to developers. And my personal friends who are developers are all easily as busy as I am. So finding free time with them is very, very difficult. So I'm usually trying to contract somebody out, which means I'm paying a decent amount of money out of my pocket. And I don't mind that part. I'm very clear. It's just more of like finding the right person. And then you have this kind of slow iteration process, because it's not like my full-time job where I can just be right there and be checking in with this developer each day, having meeting syncs and planning and all this kind of stuff. Like, no. We both have real jobs. You know, we have to do these things on the side. So the part of what I was working on initially has changed. And I'll spoil parts of it. So we're trying, the developer I'm working with, we're trying to build a reasonable app on the phone that will also have functionality to allow you to set up effectively tanks in your app, and you can track all of your metrics, all your water change schedules, everything that you need to know about your tank. So you basically, if you ever look at like old school aquatic people, they'll have journals when they set up a tank, and they'll track it for months and months and months at a time until they've hit stable point. And they can look at all that information and know everything they need to know about their tank, so that anytime they spot something that seems a little off, they just run some tests and they can look at that backlog of information and look at this new test and know what's going wrong. Well, we want to build that into an app. On top of everything else, so that you have something as easy as like open the app on your phone, select your tank, look at my log, look at my calendar, where you can literally schedule like, oh, next Tuesday I need to service my filter. A reminder, I'm going on vacation. I should probably make sure I have an auto feeder or somebody coming over to take care of stuff. And putting things that have little reminders, just like a Google Calendar or anything like that, but specifically for your fish.
That's cool.
So that's kind of some of the stuff we're trying to work on.
Yeah.
Because we want to make it more than just a plant program. Yeah. We want to make something that's more universally usable for aquarists. And then as we build out some of the programs and work with some people to do things like a horticulture awards program or something like that, where you can earn certifications through, some idiot on the internet, that it's built into your app, so that you can record things in your app very, very easily and have everything tied in as a part of that. Now, that's a large endeavor for a singular developer and a singular test engineer. It's a long standing thing. And like, we originally had a target date, and we now know that with both of our work schedules, that's not happening. And it's part of the reason why I've like kind of been quiet on it, is because I don't want to go like, yeah, our goal is to have it out July, and then just be like, yeah, hit July and be like, yeah, we're not even remotely close. Right. Because I've been bit in the butt enough by that, even when I was working with other developers and thought I was really close. And then developers just disappear.
Under promise, over deliver.
Yeah, and I should probably know this better because I work in this industry, and it happens way more than we want to admit. But I get very hopeful because I like to see the best in people. And I always think for the best. And
I want to believe.
I want to believe. I truly want to believe. And it might be my bane.
Me too. Yeah.
So that's tell me, peek into my life.
Tell me about the birds.
Oh, you want to know about birds?
I want to know about the birds. I love birds too. I had some little finches for a little while.
Zebra finches.
I didn't have them in the right cage. And so they were in this cute little hanging heart type cage, which did not have a bottom to it. So every day you had to clean up after them. So it was a problem. But if I would have had them in the right spot, I love birds.
So as a kid, I had a lot of parakeets, especially. At one point, we had something like, and we had a very, very large enclosure for our parakeets. You could think of like something the size of what the pet stores keep their parakeets in, except it was open, and we would very frequently let the parakeets fly around the house.
Yeah.
Because ours were all relatively well trained.
Do they talk?
No, not really. Parakeet, I mean, you'd be surprised at what you can teach a parakeet, but they can't really get the talk. And even cockatiels don't talk. They kind of mimic your sounds with the way they alter their squawks. And cockatiels are big things. So my first bird that was mine, and we put that in quotation marks, right, was given to me on my 6th birthday. And that was my cinnamon cockatiel, Lucky. And I had him all the way until I was in my mid-20s.
Wow.
And I can say that, like, no matter how much, like, losing a dog as a kid devastates you.
Yeah.
I can remember when we were worried about my boy, and we took him to the only exotic vet that was open at the time. It was in the middle of downtown Seattle that I had to drive to. My mom was a wreck. I had to drive, and we're terrified and worried about my old man bird because he was an adult when we adopted him. So we weren't sure exactly how old he was, but we know at this point, well, I've had him for 19 years, and he was an adult at the time. And he was very much kind of a grumpy old man. He fit me very well because even in my 20s, I was a grumpy old man. But like we were that he was one of my best friends in a weird way. And that, like, and even though I had, like, at the time we had way too many cats in the house and stuff like that, it's like, so he didn't get to be out and fly as often because I don't want my cats going after my bird. It would still go over, open up his cage, and, like, he'd sit there and, like, fuss, like, no, I don't want to go on your finger. Just go get me some sunflower seeds. Go on. You know what I want. Go get it. Do it. Do it. But he was kind of an old grump. We take him in, and unfortunately, while we're at the vet, he passed.
Oh.
Just because he had gotten dehydrated. They were trying to intravenously inject some fluids into him, and the stress of doing that, 'cause it's very stressful for birds, was enough to send him over the edge. And the vet comes out and explains all this to me, and I fell apart.
Oh.
And I think we were probably in that room for like 45 minutes to an hour. And keep in mind, like, we got there at like 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
So after all this, I had to, like, collect myself to be enough, because I then had to drive home from Seattle and get my mom home, knowing that, my bird of nearly 20 years is gone.
Yeah.
And needless to say, like, that, as much as, like, losing dogs, and I get very attached to my pets, that shattered me.
Yeah.
And I thought at that point he was going to be the last bird. And we'd had things like, for a while, my cousin lived with me, and he had a Quaker parakeet, which is the bigger green ones that look like a small parrot. I had other cockatiels. We had I think I still had 2 other cockatiels at the time, and I was sitting there going, like, I don't know if I can do birds anymore, because it just hurt that bad. And I'm a big softie. It didn't take long. Yeah, I mean, they're kind of loud. It's that I did a lot of gaming back then, and it was very frequently some of my buddies would just be like, squawk, squawk, over our microphones because they'd hear my birds in the background. And I was like, yeah. There's no way to turn the birds out. No matter what room they're in, they're going to be loud. So they might as well be in the room where they can see me, where they're slightly quieter. Because if they hear me, and I'm not in the room with them, they will make a hell of a racket.
Where are you? Where are you? Where are you?
Very much. But yeah, so we kept birds for quite a while. The last pair of birds I had was actually right before I moved into this house. I had a pair of cockatiels that I'd adopted, and the lady that had brought them into that same Denny's Pet World, which is the store that I grew up as a kid, had her husband had passed away. And one of the birds very frequently would say his nickname, which was Boomer. And there's a specific squawk tone that he had that would be that person's name. So needless to say, like, we adopted him because any story like that, my family is like, my heart must protect small baby. So I had these 2 boys for a while, because the 2 brothers, you could not separate them. They had to be together. And One would sit on my chest and preen through my goatee, while the other one would sit on my shoulder and watch. And then they would like switch. It was kind of hilarious. But you'll say my ex now, but my girlfriend at the time, her mother was really into birds, and we were moving, and I really didn't have space in my house that I have now to put the birds with everybody that had to temporarily live in my house. When I bought this house, I had to house my mom, my brother, his dog, all my mom's cats, my girlfriend at the time, her dog, her cat. I was like, okay. Well, I was thinking of like, a 1-2 bedroom condo, and now I'm buying a 4-bedroom house because I got to take care of part of my family and an army of animals. And I'm sitting there going like, I don't know where we're going to put the birds. Well, her mom was really into cockatiels and was like, I will happily take the cockatiels and give them a home if you want me to.
Yeah.
And despite the fact that her mom and I did not get along, I know that she's good to her birds. And I was like, okay, you can go down there and I don't mind you adopting the birds. Just, I need to know regularly that they're doing okay. Because if I'm worried at any time that I don't think you can take care of them, I don't care where you are. I'm coming to get them.
Right. For real.
And so, that was like the last birds I had were those 2 boys. And they're still doing just fine.
Oh.
I still get check-ins every once in a while. Like, hey, I know you don't even date my daughter anymore, but the birds are okay. Don't worry. Don't worry. They better be. They better be. Although at this point they're getting a little old. So
right.
Well, with that, you guys, we will be back. We have our mid-morning break, and so we're going to listen to Stephen P's Painted Rainbow song, since we got a rainbow man on here.
Rainbow guy.
And we will be right back within about 3 minutes. See you guys in 3 minutes.
I'll mute this time so I don't sing along.
Okay.
Got the body of a rainbow. Melania picked to spin it on my dough. Dropping low. Got that Christmassy feeling. Yeah, I know what I'm doing. Yeah. It's an unboxing. Yeah. Need to get them over to my tank and better lighting. Cause I gotta get the people. I'm trying to focus. I gotta get the people. Time for a close up and slow mo. I gotta get the people. I'm trying to focus. I gotta get the people. Time for a close up and slow mo. I gotta get the people. Out of all the rainbows, they're the hottest. Liking the way they're gonna look when I see them grow. I can't wait for that color. Yeah, gonna go in my 90s, looking awesome and shiny. Now I got them over to my tank and better lighting. Cause I gotta get the people. It's swimming and flowing. I'm trying to focus. I gotta get the people. Time for a close up and slow mo. I gotta get the people. It's swimming and flowing. I'm trying to focus. I gotta get the people. Time for a close up and slow mo. I gotta get the people. Yeah, my 90s almost stocked up. Gonna get another type of rainbow in a little while. She's got my money declining. Yeah, it's always so exciting to do another unboxing. Then I got them over to the tank and better lighting. Cause I gotta get the people. It's swimming and flowing. I'm trying to focus. I gotta get the people. Time for a close up and slow mo. I gotta the B-roll.
It's winning and going and flowing. I'm trying to focus.
Gotta get the B-roll.
It's time to be gold, to be flowing. Time for a close-up, it's almost.
Cause I gotta get the B-roll.
It's winning and going and flowing. I'm trying to focus.
Gotta get the
It's
B-roll.
time to be gold, to be flowing. Time for a close-up, it's almost.
Gotta get the B-roll.
It's winning and going and flowing. I'm trying to focus.
Gotta get the
It's
B-roll.
winning and gold, to be flowing. Time for a close-up, it's almost.
Gotta get the B-roll.
Just a little bit.
All right, and we are back.
You were dancing to that?
How can you not?
And I will get something I made better than the countdown. I hate the noise, the music with the countdown that drives me crazy. But it's what I needed at the time, just to give me just a few more 30 seconds, you know? Just whatever it is. We have had a bunch of people come in as we were in the first hour, so I'd like to say good morning to them. Audrey Meyer, good morning, good to see you. MNC Aquatics. Bex, good to see you. Debbie Holding, Barbara Jackson, Liquid Zoo, Matt, good morning. Sharpie.
Yeah.
Berkeley Bell. Let's see. All right, you guys, if I missed you. Oh, Danny, Kenny, and Big E's. Good to see you, Big E's. It's been a while. Like a while. Good to see you back. So if I did miss you, please throw your name down at the bottom. We don't want to miss anybody. But that's a long list to go backwards through. So yeah. But moving on. So did you guys know that Bentley's got a Corgi too?
I do.
I do now.
Yes. So we've talked about our Corgis before in the past, and I, of course, breed and raise them. You adopted yours, right?
Okay. I have 3 dogs. I have 2 Shiba Inu Corgi mixes, and I adopted those 2 girls. They're from the same litter, and yet don't realize they're sisters, which is really annoying. So, short story. There's this company called Ginger's Pet Rescue in the Seattle area. They do a lot of like bringing in dogs from out of country that come from places where they might eat those dogs or other things that are not great. And they brought in a female Corgi who they didn't realize until they brought her over that was pregnant, and she had 10 puppies.
Wow,
which is a lot for a little Corgi girl.
Yes, it is.
They're not very big. And they basically the same day a French bulldog mix that they had also brought in also had puppies, and she only had like 4. And they were like, we need to get some of these puppies over to a different mom because this poor corgi's not gonna be able to feed all these little babies.
Yeah, their max is like 6 norm.
Yeah. And so, needless to say, they split a couple of the pups over to this French bulldog mix. So the girl who is normally in she's actually in the room in her crate right now because she knows to be quiet in her crate. But she's in with me, and then her sister, because they were split apart, so they don't know their sisters.
Oh, because that's one they took and put on the other mom.
Right. So the runt of the litter, my little girl Shani, was the one that was taken along with one of her brothers, and the other girl, who's Lulu, who spends a lot of time with my brother-in-law James. They fought a lot when we first got them. And I mean, we're talking about, like, I have a scar on my hand from breaking up a fight.
Oh, wow.
This is how bad they were fighting. So we had talked to a trainer, and the trainer basically suggests isolate the dogs from each other.
Okay.
And get them to be good dogs on their own, and then you can slowly work on getting them to play together. Okay. So then our purebred corgi, who I got from a breeder, spends all his time downstairs with mom. And that's Papa Limo. That's the guy who's been on my YouTube channel a lot and stuff like that. So all 3 dogs basically have their own part of the house. And we're slowly trying to get Shani, because she's went from the most active dog to like the calmest but active dog. She's very athletic, but she's very calm around other dogs, to play with Papa Limo. But he gets too excited when there's another dog to play with, because he's used to playing with this 100-pound Siberian husky that's his best friend.
Wow.
And like when he was a baby, you know, he was smaller than this husky's head.
Right.
I mean, he'd just be crawling all over him when we first got him. And there's a bunch of pictures on my Instagram for like when I worked on a video game when we were there, where like the dog of that house is just like laying there and let this little corgi puppy crawl all over him, just like, yeah, little guy. Yeah. Okay. A little too close to my face. Quit it.
Yeah.
You know, and like we actually went and saw them recently, and Onyx, their husky, sees me and he's like, oh, I know this person. And then he sees Papa Limo and he just loses his mind. Because part of the pandemic, we hadn't really seen each other very much for about 1.5 years.
Yeah.
And he's like, I know you. And both of them are like trying to run right at each other through a fence. It was very adorable. And we got him in the backyard, just let him off the leash. They're just running all over the place. This little corgi is trying to keep up with this husky, which is very adorable because they can do it. That's the scary part.
Now,
corgis are very fast.
Crossed with Shiba Inus. Does that how much bigger did it make them?
You know, they're mostly just taller. So my Papa Limo is at a trim 23.6 pounds. He actually just recently went for his yearly checkup. He slimmed down. He was a little overweight because Dad spoils him too much.
As he should.
I'm a big softie. I can't help it. Where the girls are Shani, who's the thinner one. She looks like a miniature German Shepherd. It's kind of weird the way she's built. But you definitely look at her and you're like, that's a corgi face, 100%. That's corgi ears. That's a Shiba Inu butt and tail, though. That's kind of strange. But then she's this very slim body, which is not either corgi or Shiba.
Right.
So, you know, she's interesting. She's like 27 pounds typically. And then her sister, who's got like full sheep body, the sheep ears, but a corgi face. So it's and a corgi tail. She's like 32 pounds because she's very stout. Yeah. And she's the biggest dog. But she's in no way, shape or form is she like chunky. She's got like typical nice slim dog waist and all the things that you want to see. She's just very like, she's really got that Shiba body to her. But you know, they're probably 4 inches or so taller than the boy, just because the mom was the corgi, they don't have the short legs.
Right.
You know, and I mean, of course, you know this, you breed corgis, but for those who don't know, you have to have Dad be the corgi to get those short little legs. If you're looking to do some crazy crossbreeding with corgis, like they do
a lot of nowadays, they're crossing the corgis with the Australian Shepherds, the Border Collies, and the healers, and the main one is the healer. But like you said, they want to keep the short legs, but they want the aggressiveness of the healer for the cattle.
Yeah.
And for goats and sheep, that's why they're crossing the healer, but they have to make sure, you want the shorter body, shorter legs, and you got to have the male.
Go get a cardigan corgi. They're great.
I have Rainy is pure Pembroke, full-blooded Pembroke.
Which is what my boy is.
And I took and bred her to a Pembroke cardigan cross.
Okay.
And so I kept the babies, which are going to be maybe a 16th of cardigan, but they're longer. Mm-hmm. And their temperament is a little bit more active than the Pembroke is. But other than that, that's the only difference I can see between Pembroke and cardigan.
Yeah, it's interesting. Corgis are especially popular here in the Northwest. You have Corgis and Shiba Inus are both super popular out here. Like, as far as your small dogs are concerned, I would say at least 50% of the ones that you're going to see out here are either a Corgi or a Shiba Inu.
Really?
Yeah, it's very dominated by those two.
Yeah.
And typically they're almost always Pembroke Corgis, because you don't get a lot of cardigans out this way.
Okay.
And I haven't seen very cardigan breeders, but you'll get people who are now doing the crosses with a cardigan to get like the blue merle pattern and some of that stuff. And I have a friend who has a blue merle Pembroke, and I'm very jealous because it's a very pretty dog. But at the same time, I'm like, but it's not my boy.
Not your boy.
He's his own special animal.
Yep.
Come on. Oh, try again.
Oh, well.
Try again.
Oh,
Bentley,
I got it.
I was wondering, when you were talking about all of your plant stuff and everything and the point system that you were going through to get your master.
Yeah.
How does mosses rank in the plant world?
Sure. Yeah. So for our club, they kind of blanket put the mosses at easy, which is totally not accurate.
Right.
There are a lot of, especially now, like you get those super rare moss nerds where you get things like umbrella moss or some of those things that don't even look like what we would traditionally associate as a moss, right?
Right.
And they're excessively difficult and take a very long time to carefully propagate. And most of the people who do them really well are actually doing them in more of an immersed high humidity system as opposed to fully submerged, because it's just easier to get the higher levels of CO2 from atmospheric CO2. And this is where we get the slightly sciencey parts, right?
Right.
I've got a buddy who's a big like moss psycho. And every time I look at some of like the crazy stuff he's got, because like I've seen umbrella moss at his place. And when you see pictures of umbrella moss, you're like, that looks really cool. Then you see umbrella moss in person and you go, can I have it? Just one little,
just
all of it.
Just one frond.
Do you know how long it took me to grow these 4 from one? What, like 2 months? No, 6.
Ooh.
So one. But you get some of these like really rare, crazy looking mosses, and I always laugh at one particular moss's name, which for those it's become slightly more popular. But there's the hooker moss.
Yeah, I love hooker moss. That's awesome stuff.
And it's just like, it's the inherent like 12-year-old that's inside my brain that's just like,
Lady of the Evening moss.
Don't laugh. It's a last name. Don't laugh.
Right.
But you get stuff like that, and
it's like, why couldn't you go on with your first name on that day?
Yeah.
Thomas Moss. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, this is Bob Moss,
Hey.
which I think we should have Bob Moss. Just
Heck
I'm a big Bob
Bob
Ross
Ross
fan,
right?
I think we have to have something that looks kind of like a giant fro. We call it Bob Moss.
Maybe a little happy little moss.
Yeah, just happy little moss.
Science
You
Go
can trim it
Aquatic
that
and
way.
Aquarium Life and Still Water. Bentley, are you in the same club as Alex? He recently announced the Master Breeder Award and was curious as to what club he's in. Thanks.
Yes, he is a master breeder for the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society. Although he's not been going to meetings lately.
Uh-oh.
But yeah, no, actually how I met Alex was through the club. And most of the like YouTubers that I know, I met through the club. So like Randy, who's the Aquarius podcast, back when he was more actively doing the Aquarius podcast, I met him through the club. I met Dean through the club. A lot of these people who that are all up in the Seattle area, I met almost all of them with very rare exception through the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society. The big thing is whether or not some of them attend nowadays. A lot of us have gotten fairly busy. Like even this last meeting was the first meeting I've been to since November. And November was the meeting I was speaking at. It was just the only reason why I was there. So it's one of those things where there's a lot of really awesome aquarists in Seattle. We're very lucky in that sense. But part of it's because we have such an amazing club that draws a lot of people in and gets them better. Because when you have more resources and you have these people like Roy, our horticulture awards chairperson, or you have people like Master Breeder Dean, where you can go to this person who just has forgotten more information than I might ever know. Right. It's like, and you get to talk to these people and get advice from them. There's a guy who like no one will probably know, but he's well known inside our club, and like his thing is live food. You want to know anything about how to culture live food? This guy cultures everything you've ever heard of and all the stuff you also didn't even know existed.
Wow.
Like he's a guy who's like keeping paramecium cultures and all this kind of stuff. And like he does all these weird breeding projects and does all these kind of crazy things. And sometimes we lovingly joke. It's like, guys, who knows what random thing he's trying to breed right now, but he's really good at all the live food. Yeah. and there's people like member number 3. This is a gentleman named Steve, and he's the photographer for the club. And this is a guy who's like basically an expert in fish disease, because he has a biologist degree from the University of Washington. He's been he's done like mostly fish related and fisheries biology stuff, and just like this is a guy who like puts out slides on a microscope, and he knows so much stuff, and it for your average person will bore them to death.
Wow. Because
of how detailed it is and what he'll go into in slides and cultures and all these little things that you can look at to figure out the difference between this and that. And it's like no normal aquarist does this, Steve. Like you and maybe 3 other people in the country do this, Steve. Mm-hmm. Chill guy. But he's an old guy. He's been in the club since the 70s when it was formed.
I mean, he's the 3rd member.
Yeah, he's member number 3. And it's like, and the thing that Steve best for is like he's always smiling, he's always the club, he's always taking pictures, and he always brings panda Cory babies.
Aww.
If he's ever going to bring anything to club auctions. So if you ever see panda Corys, almost guaranteed they probably came from Steve at one point. It's like it's these little things that you start learning when you're in a club like that. So you get a lot of fantastic people, folks like Alex, folks like myself, who like we go down our own rabbit hole, right?
Yeah.
But there's so many amazing resources in our club as far as just knowledge. And I think that's part of why I love and very frequently will champion join a fish club if you have one near you, because you're going to find those people in every club. Every club has their master breeder Dean, or their like secret guru who knows how to breed all of the live food sources you've never knew about, right? It's like You're gonna have those people all over the place. So if you can, even if it takes you like a 2-hour drive to go to a club meeting, if you have a way to make that work, do it.
Yeah.
Like if you're within range of MASI, the Missouri Aquarium Society, where Gary Lang is a member, go. Freaking go. They're probably the best club in the whole country. Or like you're near there's like Circle City, or there's a ton of them. There's the Motor City Aquarium Society. There's tons of great ones. Yeah. Minnesota, San Francisco, another amazing club. So many of these things have great events, like things like the Keystone Clash, or like the big like cichlid swap and all that kind of stuff that the CCA does and all those kind of things. Those are all spawned because of a club.
Right.
A club is what has created those events, and now there are these things that like we nerds on the internet babble about, like they're the craziest convention known to man.
Right.
And it's only because it's like it's a bunch of fish nerds that are going to get together with fish, maybe some plants, and we're just going to nerd out and buy stuff from each other.
Yeah.
And that's our heaven, right? Because
right.
we're psychos, all of us. But all of this stuff comes from things like clubs. So if you have a club even remotely near you, go to a fish club.
Yeah.
That's where
Go. If at all possible.
Yeah, in the Metro Detroit area, I have like 5 clubs. And before the pandemic, I could have gone to a club every single weekend. Every single weekend, I could have gone to a different club and whatnot. Now, most of them are virtual meetings and whatnot. But in the Metro Detroit area, I'm spoiled.
Like you or Eric and Bentley, y'all are both in 2 areas that are very, very good and have very good clubs. Like me and Jerry, you would think Dallas, Fort Worth would. I mean, they do have one, but it's not. Yeah, it's
horrible.
It is.
I'll say it. It's horrible. North Texas area for fish clubs is just horrible. There's no regular meetings. There's no breeding programs. There's no network. There's just fish swaps. Yeah. That and
that's every 90
may or
days.
may not have representation from the clubs at those swaps.
Well, you know what that means. It
Not
means you got to take over a club.
I know. Trust me,
and you got to fix
my
it.
brain goes crazy, Bentley, but I got so much going on. I need help.
Oh, Jenna just got home and said that just dropped Steven off at home to get some rest. Good. Okay, good. Yes.
Ooh, they didn't admit him. That means that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yep, definitely. Well, you guys, it is time for Fish Story. And you guys know who that's with. That's with Alex from The Secret History Living in Your Aquarium. He does this for us every day and for his members as well. So if you don't know who he is, listen to him, check him out. He is our historian pretty much for the fish fan.
Hey everybody, what's going on? It's Alexander Williamson here with Fishtory on The Secret History Living in Your Aquarium on the Aquatic Morning Show. Can you follow what I'm doing? I hope you're having a good Friday. How's it going, Jess? What's up? If it's Stephen P. or Skipper or whoever is hanging out this morning, I hope you guys are doing well. Same to all of you in the chat. So today I want to tell you guys some exciting news that we don't have a lot of details on, but as an archaeologist, this just thrills me. So they have recently found a 7 square mile temple and or monument complex in the densely vegetated Amazon. And for a long time, there have been rumors that there was a city of gold, El Dorado, existing in the Amazon. And if it's anything like the Peruvian stories from the conquistadors, when they got to Machu Picchu or Lima, both places, they found rooms completely coated in gold and statues made of gold and tools made of gold. I mean, literally, they had, I think it was like 20 ships of gold and silver, so much so that when they brought it back to Europe, it actually crashed the economy. They had one of the biggest depressions they've had because they totally devalued the currency by bringing so much gold and silver right into, they flooded the economy with it in Europe. Pretty crazy. So if that's anything to go off of the potential for that sort of thing in the region, what they're finding are step pyramids. And we've gone dark. Sorry, guys. So what they're finding is step pyramids, very similar to those in Mexico, and with some of the architecture features that appears of Peru as well. So you see the kind of Machu Picchu looking structures and stonework, or it's pretty reminiscent also of the desert cultures in like the Atacama Desert. And so the way they found this is, of course, well, I'll tell you this in a second. So the way they found it is by using something called LiDAR. So basically it's a frequency of laser that they can shoot from a satellite or a low flying plane. And oftentimes this region is very cloudy, so it is really hard to get from satellite the LiDAR, because the clouds will mess it up. But if they get a clear day, they can use the satellite LiDAR, and it's very rare to get those crystal clear moments there when you're going all the way through the atmosphere. So they've used low-flying planes, and they've uncovered these giant structures that are rising 70 feet in the middle of the jungle, that people have literally been going around for decades, for centuries. And basically you can't even tell what it is, because it just looks like a mound in the jungle of dirt. The jungle has reclaimed these places, and they assume that society that built this, existed probably around 1,000 years ago. So probably about 300 years, 400 years before contact between the Western world and the old world and the new world. This was probably a thriving city, and then all of a sudden it just totally disappears. They haven't excavated the area yet because they didn't know it existed, but they have excavated mounds in areas where the city has come right up to the jungle, and they've realized, holy cow, there is a pyramid right here. You know, this lump in the ground that we've all, you know, walked over and watched the sunset from on the weekends or whatever, like in a park in the middle of town, is a pyramid. And when they excavate those, they tend to find a lot of material culture from 1,500 to 1,000 years ago. And this society, this culture, seems to stem thousands of miles with similar style artwork and things. So it was probably trading different crops and products and things with Central America all the way up into maybe even southern Mexico, but definitely Central America, Honduras, Panama, Nicaragua, Guatemala, all those areas were definitely tied into this, which probably then tied to the Andes. They know that the Incans ran all the way up to the Mayans with their trade routes when the Europeans first came here. But this is really cool because it confirms what the locals have been telling them for literally centuries, that there was a golden city somewhere in the Amazon. And whether they mean that metaphorically or literally, either way could be true, which is kind of the fun part about all this. But there's a couple different professors heading it up from different universities around the world. And it's a big breakthrough that they found a temple complex in the actual Amazon. A lot of times throughout history, when we've looked at the Amazon for the last 300 years, Europeans said, oh no, these people were far too primitive. They've always been nomadic or tribal in nature, where they just move around with the river, and as it rises and falls with the wet and dry season, and they fish, and they might grow some food or collect some food. But now we're getting a much different picture, that they actually had an agriculture and probably aquacultural system with floating gardens and, using fish as their main protein, rather than having to hunt through the jungle to support a giant city. Crops also would have been completely necessary for this. So it really could rewrite the history of the Amazon. And when a lot of times we've said that, this could never be, these people are so simple when they were contacted, they're so primitive. And that's in the last video, I mentioned the word primitive too, but that's why anthropologists don't necessarily like to use the word primitive, and rather hunting and gathering or, nomadic is probably a better word, because a lot of times, just like the Mississippian mound culture in North America, you can have native groups that were once living in cities and metropolises, and either war or famine or some sort of massive illness comes through, and they decide to go back to nomadic or tribal life that's less centralized. And in some ways, you could say that if life everywhere was still tribal, the Earth may not be facing the threats it is right now. I mean, definitely not nuclear war and global warming or climate change, rather. Things like that definitely wouldn't be an issue. So maybe, the primitive way of living, as they say, is the more sustainable one in the long run. So there's some wisdom in that these societies, you know, decided to come together, get organized, and then they decided to dissolve back into living more in unison with nature. And we know for a fact that the Peruvian Amazon and the Colombian Amazon were really well manicured, especially in the regions that didn't flood, but were adjacent to river areas that did flood. We see all sorts of irrigation trenches and things, not the massive earthworks that we see in other parts of the world. And so this is partially why we thought it may be more primitive nature, digging by hand with a wooden trowel or something like that. But definitely enough so that they've changed the land so that they could live there year round, and it could support a very dense population. So, you know, people are already trying to make estimates of how many houses would probably be associated with the temple complex like this, how many stones have to be moved in order to do this, where the heck they even got the stones from on the river, and how they would transport them into the middle of the forest like this. And, some of these estimates that archaeologists and anthropologists are coming up with are saying that there could have been as many as 100,000 people living in this one city alone. Now, they're still debating on what to name it, but more info will be coming out soon. And they're really trying not to publicize where this is because they don't want treasure hunters going there trying to dig everything up and ruin the evidence that scientists will have to be able to chronicle just what was there. And this LiDAR technology has uncovered things under the sands of the Sahara, things off the coast, down in the water and in the oceans, all sorts of amazing stuff. So there's no telling as we even fine tune that technology more and are able to get through all the foliage of these rainforests to see what exactly is under there. And then beyond that, now we have technology where we're able to actually penetrate into the ground and see shapes and densities of what's underneath that. So once they send a team to the ground, then they can say, oh, this is stone, or this is metal, or this is wood, or whatever it may be. This is just earth. And figure out what's going on. But we know for a fact that the Atacama Desert, that the Peruvian Andes, and that a lot of the South American continent had been well colonized and controlled by the indigenous people before contact. And now we've even seen that the Yanomamo tribe of the Amazon, this is some kind of more breaking news, but they've actually confirmed Chinese and Japanese as well as Polynesian DNA in this one tribe, which is interesting. They just haven't tested a lot, like all the tribes, but they tested this one remote tribe that they thought would probably have pretty consistent DNA of one group. They'd been isolated a while, and they turned up this DNA probably from shipwrecked sailors at some point in the past. It was a very small amount, but nevertheless a very positive signature for the amount of this genetic material DNA from the East, which is really interesting. So who knows what technology they could have had? It could have started a small renaissance for all we know, if they were able to communicate with, Chinese technology 2,000 years ago. And there's a lot of parallels that people have made in the past. Probably nothing sustained or long-term in contact, but you look at things like the temples, and obviously it's the easiest shape to build, but you even look at dragons and snakes and some of the iconography of the indigenous South American and Central American people. And, people have seen a lot of similarities. So I'll let you guys decide on those details, and let you guys search out this secret city that they basically just uncovered. There is info on where it is. I just don't want to be putting it out there if they said in the article that they weren't going to post a map. But it's out there if you're that curious about it. So I hope everybody has a great day. I know this is another long one, but I wanted to make up for the fact that we missed the first 2 of the week. So take care. Have a great weekend. And I'm going to be speaking down in Eugene. If you guys happen to be in the area of the Willamette Valley, I'll be at the Willamette Valley Fish Society Fish Club speaking 1 o'clock on Saturday, and I'll be hanging out with Kenny E and hopefully Danny. So I'll be down there. Hopefully I'll see some of you. Talk to you guys later. Bye.
Bye, Alex. I know, I was waving too.
Bye, friend.
So what is in the future for Mr. Bentley Pascoe?
Ooh.
Any more master gardener?
my
plant gardener?
fish future? Well, I mean, probably at some point I'll hit Master 11 when I actually decide to start submitting stuff again instead of being lazy. But realistically, the upcoming thing, and maybe a reason why I have this on, I'll be going to the Triple Crown event, which is going to happen in Louisville, Kentucky, at the end of July. It's, I think specifically they're targeting the 27th through the 31st, but I might be wrong on those dates.
No, you're right.
But it's I know that I'll be in Louisville for about a full week because I'm spending a couple days with a friend that lives there. I think I'm going to try and organize a non-official meetup on Wednesday evening for any of the other psychos who get in there early like I'm going to. And don't have one of the pre-planned events. Like if you're not going to the barbecue at Rusty Wessel's place, it's Wednesday night. If like you're like me and you're going Thursday night because you're a rainbow fish nerd and that's the rainbow fish night. Or at least that's what we've made it because we were like, all the rainbow nerds, Gary's going Thursday. Everybody go Thursday. But yeah, I mean, beyond that, let's see, the main goals for the rest of this year at this point are hopefully get the app that I'm working on with a developer up and functional. And then second, probably try to get my garage emptied so that I can actually turn it into a real fish room instead of like random fish tanks all over my house, and do something far more productive, like breed fish again. Because it's very hard to do that reliably in my current setup and with my schedule the way it is. But if I have everything in one nice place where I can control certain things, it's a lot easier to start doing stuff.
Right. How many tanks do you have right now?
Less than I used to. I'm down to 17 at the moment.
Wow.
And mostly it's just because I had some small 10 gallons that I took down because I had to be real with myself and be like, there's no way we're raising baby rainbow fish with the amount we're working right now. Now that might change in the near future, but I kind of have just told myself I really would just want to wait until I can build my garage fish room out because then I can do things in a far more organized fashion. But now that my new job allows me to work from home, despite the fact that I still work quite a bit, because it's a I'm in kind of a leadership role, so there's a lot of things that have to be done,
right?
And we're a small team that's growing like crazy, so it means we have to do the work of multiple people while we're trying to find and hire new people.
Yes.
And even despite the fact that I'm a new person on the team, very quickly that has become okay. So now that you're in charge of all these initiatives, it's like,
here you go.
Yep. But yeah, no. The goal is to get back to breeding rainbow fish because there's certain species of rainbow fish that I love, and that I've had for a bit, and I really want to get more of them out and available to the hobby. Like the running river rainbow fish, I've often called the crown jewel of my fish room. Like I think more people need to keep that fish because it's beautiful. It's a smaller rainbow. It goes great in like a 40-gallon breeder.
Yeah.
You can keep like 20 of them in a 40-gallon breeder, and they school
what's
tightly.
Their max size?
3 inches.
3 inches.
Yeah, I mean my biggest male is maybe 3.5 inches.
Yeah.
And most of them sit right around the 3-inch mark as full adults. Mine are like 4 years old now, and unlike most of the other dwarf rainbows, they actually live a little bit longer. They're an Australian rainbow, but there's a cool story to them. They have an incredible like mix of colors. You've got reds, golds, black striping. They're just a beautiful, beautiful fish. They've got kind of a nice green iridescence as they're moving around too. So you get this just wealth of color out of this fish. They're very tight schoolers compared to some of the other rainbows that are out there that are more loose kind of shoaling fish. I mean, these guys stay really close together all the time.
Really?
So it's very fun to watch them interact because they'll sit so tight.
Yeah.
And there's just little things that, like, the more they grow, the more you get to appreciate them. And because they're kind of a long-lived fish, you can have them for quite a while. And you know, they're peaceful. They're
When you mean
like
long-lived, what is their
7-8 years is probably what
Really?
you're going to get out of them. Yeah.
Wow.
And they can go longer. They're a lot like Bozeman and stuff like that, where you can get potentially 12 years out of that fish. But it's all about, like, giving them space and the right environment.
Right.
And
Aquatics
yeah.
is asking if you have any Goiter River rainbows.
My last Goiter River passed away recently. But that being said, like, there's a lot of Goiter River inside the Greater Seattle Aquarium Society, so it's very easy to get, like, Gary Langstrain Goiter Rivers very quickly. One of the fortunate things when Gary likes your club a lot and comes out regularly, there's a lot of his rainbows floating around the Seattle area. You just got to know who to ask. And lucky for me, I know who to ask.
Yeah, right.
But you know, that's a fish I like a lot. Honestly, like, if you like the Goiter River, if you can find the Blythe River. Blythe River rainbow is basically a more colorful Goiter River, in the sense that where Goiter River has those beautiful red stripes and all that kind of stuff, Blythe has more red to them. So totally one you want to check out. And then, but yeah, beyond that, the only other thing for me as of right now is Fishtoberfest. I'll be speaking at Fishtoberfest in October.
Oh, yeah. Right.
And that'll be a completely new talk just for Fishtoberfest. So I have to, like, start working on developing that here soon.
Wish I could go to Fishtoberfest.
It'll end up on YouTube for those that can't go. It'll end up on YouTube, but it'll be a shorter talk, even though I'm long-winded. So I'll target half an hour so that I speak for 45 minutes. And instead of, well, I mean, like, my plant talk is supposed to be like an hour roughly, and it ends up an hour and a half because I just don't shut up.
Right. you going. I love it.
Right. Well, we got a fish race to do real quick, you guys. We need to see who wins the end of week race, which, for those of you who don't know, we put out a short every day, and we ask you guys, if you want to play, to go and write in the comment section of the short that is put in the chat. I love watching the Aquatic Morning Show. It has to be those 7 words. And if you do that by midnight that night, we give you a tally mark. You can get up to 3 of those a week, and we put you in this fish race. It can be different races, but today it's the fish race. And then if you win the end of week race, then you go in the pot for the end of month giveaway race. So there's only 4 or 5 people that actually get to be in the end of month, because they won the end of week. So, and the end of month gets a coffee mug and an Aquatic Morning Show shirt. So,
yay!
Yes.
I can't wait for mine.
All right, you guys. Here we go. Get ready, set, go.
Come on! Come on!
I think last week we did horses, I think. I know we do several different races, but
where am I? There I am.
Yeah. It's never the
Dennis,
first one that's out front.
Yeah. Dennis,
it's always
I'm so sorry.
from the back.
Yeah, Dennis is gonna be. Oh, here comes Lady R. Here comes Lady R. Lady R down the stretch. Well, too schooly for Cooley coming up on the outside. Lady R,
keep going. Congratulations.
Tried to do that.
I know, right? It was awesome. Lady Warshak, you are in the running to be in the end of month race now, and you win a Aquatic Morning Show keychain for winning the end of week.
Where's mine?
So
I have mine somewhere.
That is, let me do this. Stop screen. And like I said, I got them in.
Nice.
And that's what they are.
Yep. Super awesome.
Oh, that's cool.
I can freaking get it right.
There we go.
There we go. Anyway.
You want cooler merch than me.
I love these little keychains. I found them Well, I wasn't the first one that came up with them, but I don't know. For some reason, I really like them. I've gotten several. Okay, where's my phone? There it is. Several little. There's a guppy.
That's cool.
And then an axolotl.
Aw.
Now this is the aquashella.
Ooh.
And then this is also a guppy. Wait, wrong way. A guppy.
That's cool.
Nice.
And then, of course, the morning show, and then the mainsail fur and fins. And then this one is Sand Creek Aquatics 2. So, I don't know. I like collecting them for whatever reason. I don't use them on my keychains because I don't want to mess them up.
Exactly. You don't want to scuff them and then, anything rub off or.
Yeah, but like I really do like them. I don't know. It's like, I just like them. But, so that's what we give away at the end of end of week. I'm also leaning towards, if you already have a keychain, going with one of these little towelettes and having Susie Q put the morning show on it. And maybe a sponsor or two or whatever on these little towelettes if you already have gotten a keychain. You don't want another keychain. So, because we've been doing this for a while now. So, there are several people starting to get it. And then people are giving away the keychains if they win them twice, which is great. But
that's awesome.
All right. So I got you down, Miss Lady Warshik. And of course, Miss Lori also has my back if I forget.
Lori is one of the best mods out there.
Yeah.
She does so much for so many people here on the morning show.
Yeah.
I cannot thank her enough. She
does.
There's not enough words in the English language to describe how awesome she is.
That's right.
It's kind of amazing how we have some of those people inside the fish family, just like they mod for like it seems like every channel known to man,
right?
And you're just like, how do you do that? Like I look at my schedule,
all the links and everything, and
I'm a mod for like one channel, and I basically never show up. So
right.
Like I'm a moderator for Aquarium Co-op, and I don't even know why that ever happened. Just one day, all of a sudden, my name was blue. I was like, oh. All right. I don't know why. I don't know why this was done, but okay.
That's where responsibilities. No.
Right. All right. I am looking for this.
Okay,
while you're looking, I got to ask, who is going to Triple Crown?
I am still trying to get to Triple Crown. I have reservations. I have a ticket. But the price of gas is going up and up and up. And so that's going to be the determining factor. Here within about a week or two, I'll make the final decision. And if not, then I was given the ticket, and therefore I'll give the ticket back, and he can give the ticket to someone else if that happens. So I am still keeping my fingers crossed, but we'll still see.
How far is your drive?
13 hours.
Awesome. I love driving.
Louisiana to Tennessee, and those. Yeah, it's
about $250 one way at this point.
Yeah, right.
I was trying to do the gas math in my head, and I'm like
about $600 in gas right now. Whereas in 3 months ago, when I made the reservations, it was half of that. So we'll see.
All right.
Yep.
Woof.
Yeah. All right, you guys, it is time for me to play the coffee cup sponsorships. For those that don't know what the coffee cup sponsorship is, you can become a coffee cup sponsor by just emailing me, and we'll talk about it. That was you, Papa Shrimp, huh? All right. So we've got one more thing that we've got to play, and that is the live streams for rest of today, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah.
That way, if you ever do need to know, if you forget who's streaming and for whatever reason you can't remember, you can always also go to fishfam.link and there go to the calendar and it will be there, or you do a little button that says live and you can push that button and it'll tell you
weekend live streams
who was live at that time
on Friday.
She's ahead of
Happy
me.
birthday retest dolls, Ricky.
Dee Dee.
Stay tuned. And at 5 a.m. it's Rumbles Aquatics. That's right, get up early. And at 10 it's the Aquatic Morning Show on Mainstays Fur and Fins with Jess and the crew. At 12 it's John Jensen's World, formerly My Fish Tanks Aquatics. And on Rico Stan's channel at 2 is the Afternoon Chat Delight. At 4:30 it's the Ed and Lefty Variety Show. Chattanooga Ed's channel with Lefty 32138. It's Stay Fishy Friday at 6 on Ohio Fish Rescue. And also at 6 it's Cold Water Aquatics with Brandon and Aquatic Nest. At 7 is the Secret History Living in Your Aquarium with Alex. At 7:30, it's Aqua Malik. And also at 7:30, Hippie John the Fisherman and Whizzle Aquatics on Hippie John's channel. 8:30, it's Father Fish. It's Friday night with LRB Aquatics at 9:30. Mr. Flecko. At 10:30, Friday night Fish Talk on Danikin Aquatics. Kenny, probably James, and probably Ed, and maybe more. The Booty Boys are back. At 11:30, it's In the Den with Big Tank Hank. And that concludes the Friday night lineup. And now for the Saturday live streams in Eastern Standard Time. And we start off with Team Detritus at 8 a.m. on Terry's Tropical Tanks. Next up is Saturday Morning Cartoons on 503 Aquatics with Shanna and Jason, Depths Unknown. Following that is Saturday Morning Live on Jimmy P's Aquariums, 12 noon. At 12, it's also been O-Chart. And also at 12 is Mob Guppy. It's Peter. And at 2 is Aquarium Co-op for the club members' live guest presentation. And also at 2, it's Fish, Plants, and Moss on Mexicali Fish Keeper. It's Families and Fish Keepers, 4 p.m. with Lady Metalhead. And at 6 is Mississippi Hippie, Sherry, with Aquarium Therapy. Christmas Talk at 7 with Tammy. Saturday with Fish Freaks at 7. That'll be Scotty, the Fish Freak. Also at 7, it's In the Den with Big Pink Hank's Wild About Herps stream. And at 8, it's Fish Room Fever, or Chattanooga Ed, or Rick or Stan, or maybe all three. And at 9, on the Glassbox Hero channel, it's Fish and Friends with Danny and Gina. At 9:30 is Vinny's Aquatics. At 10 is Aquafunk Live. Is it his birthday again? At 11 is Punchy Paints with Pam and Bob. And that's it for Saturday live streams. And now for the Sunday live streams in Eastern Standard Time. Happy birthday, Shanna! We start off with Depths Unknown. It's the easy stream at 9. That's Degenerate Fish Keeper, if you don't know. At 11 is Our Aquatic Universe with Mike B. At 12, it's the Sunday Brunch on Mike's Aquatics and Things. At 1, it's Sunday Sharpie on Sharpie's Fish and Phantoms. And it's 2 Peas in a Pod, 2 o'clock on Jimmy P's Aquariums channel. At 3, it's Sunday Stream with Brienne's Fish Fan. And at 4, it's Aquamarine. Science Scout Aquatics at 5 with Carrie and Jesse. At 6, it's Skipper's Aquariums with the Skipper. And at 7, it's Q Aquatics with Suzuki. At 8, it's the TN Fish Mafia with Bob Taylor's channel with a whole bunch of Mafia folks. And 9 is the Sunday night stream with Aquatic and Aquatics, Kenny and Danny. And also at 10, you have Griffin's Fish Room with Griff. At 11:30 is Misfit Reptiles and Aquatics with Brennan, and that wraps up Sunday live streams. And look who's rude, Matt. Thanks for making this information easy to find at fishfan.link and Lefty3213A. Thanks for your live stream calendar on your site as well.
Dee Dee's the best.
Dee Dee is the best. All right, you guys. Well, we've got Riddish Doss and Shanna's birthday. Or let's see, Riddish Doss's birthday today, and Shanna's birthday is Sunday.
Happy birthday, Rakash.
That's right. Keep that in mind. And this is your birthday from the Aquatic Morning Show.
Happy birthday to you. It's your day. Don't throw it away. I've come to celebrate in a big way. Another year. So come on and cheer. It's the birthday last frontier. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. We're having a good time, making me feel fine. I wish the day would never come to an end. So come on and party, and one day you will see that it's your birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
All right. Yes. Happy birthday, you guys. Well, Mr. Bentley, it has been a great 2 hours with you. I sure do finally appreciate you coming and spending it with us on the Aquatic Morning Show. It has been, our 2 hours are up. I believe Rico will go next, or Jimmy P. I'm not real sure which. See, I was just told and I've already forgot. So I need to go to what? Fishband.link and remind myself.
That's right.
Other than that, you guys, I hope everybody has a great weekend. We'll see y'all Monday.
Happy Father's Day to all you.
Happy Father's Day to all the fathers.
It's Father's Day too. That's right. So happy Father's Day to all of you fathers as well.
Yep.
Have
And
a
for
good
Even
week.
if you're just a fish dad.
And a dog dad. Fur dads count too.
Well,
That's
what everybody
right.
says.
That's right. Bye, everyone.
Love you guys. Bye.
It's a live ever mosh pit. So watch it, don't knock it, drop and fry every day, ain't gon' stop it. People saying hey and whoa and take it slow, it's out of control, but they don't know I got a mother-loving biome. Nature! So leave it alone, they're doing fine in a happy home. Making babies with their fathers and mothers and sisters and brothers is kinda gross, but you know that's the way it goes. Now I'm in the midst of a colony blitz. It all started with a batch of fry. The mama died, but the baby survived and grew up and thrived. Then the guppies kicked the breeding into overdrive. What was accidental and incremental blew up into an exponential and totally mental experimental hit. And the fish police threw a fit. I guess they just couldn't handle my live bearer mosh pit. Best not front on me about this company, 'cause you can't spell guppy without that one and only G. You might think from this rhyme that I'm mucking up guppy lines. Ain't got no crooked spine or time to hear you whine. Talk the fish police. I'm making hybrids I desire to acquire and combine entire lines designed to inspire and surprise and advertise the rise of my monkey fighting live bearer empire. You looking all distraught, you think it's overstocked, but you got no shot to sway me, you're an afterthought. Yeah, I got guppies getting blitzed on duckweed. Had enough of these, well they don't stop and neither do we. You might call it a challenge, it's a foot per gallon. Your rationale is sound, but it's a little unfounded, 'cause I'm gonna be crowned as the best flippin' mud guppy breeder around. On this earth, then my mutts, I assert, are gonna make you a convert to a chaotic tank that doesn't take much effort or the hand of an expert. Look, all I did was rap and 5 guppies just gave birth. Best not front on me about this company, 'cause you can't spell guppy without that one and only G. You might think from this rhyme that I'm mucking up guppy lines. Ain't got no crooked spines or time to hear you whine, 'cause you best not front on me about this company, 'cause you can't spell guppy without that one and only G. If you wanna do like I do, fertilize the plants with fish food, don't fret about being overrun, just chill and have some fun. I got the new genetics for the color theoretics, a different aesthetic. It's cosmetic and frenetic. If you don't get it, I do. I got a vision, it's eidetic. And your derision, well, it's really quite pathetic. Now you see a bunch of platies, they're looking fatty. You think it's fatty, and the plants are overgrown, getting kinda ratty. It's alright, little laddie, just look me in the eye and tell me who's your daddy. Best not front on me about this company, 'cause you can't spell guppy without that one and only G. You might think from this rhyme that I'm mucking up guppy lines. Ain't got no crooked spines or time to hear you whine, 'cause you best not front on me about this company, 'cause you can't spell guppy without that one and only G. If you wanna do like I do, fertilize the plants with fish food, don't fret about being overrun, just chill and have some fun. Yeah, I give a fudge about some algae? What, you afraid of shiznit getting too natural up in this biznatch? Good sir, dispose of your TDS meter, for it measures organic and inorganic solids, and it's more beneficial to learn the chemistry of your water. Thank you very much. If you wanna do like I do, fertilizing plants with fish poo, don't fret about being overrun, just chill and have some fun.